The French Revolution, the 5-minute version. All right, so this is, we just started this, so we're going to finish it when we get back, but most of what we're talking about are 1789, which is upside down. All right, so real quick, Louis the 16th and his wife Marie Antoinette, XVI, and Marie and MA. They are both very young. I think he is 16 and she is 15 when they get married. She is the daughter of the Empress of Austria, Maria Therese. He is the, I can't remember, is the grandson or great-grandson of Louis the 14th, this, the guy that built Versailles. So they live in Versailles, which is, at the time, the nicest house on the face of the earth. Might still be. It's pretty dang good. So they live in Versailles. They are young. And they are both kind of young and clueless. Louis is really not interested in ruling. And unfortunately, this is going to come back to bite him in ruling. And the problem with that is at this time, there's a number of kind of economic disasters going on. And more importantly, at this time, there are all these, if you notice, a lot of these names are French. Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, Denis Diderot, all these people are having these discussions about, do we really need a king? Do we really need to have a royal family? Is this kind of what we want? So, they're also kind of, they have trouble having kids at first, and there's all this gossip about it. But mainly the fact that they live in Versailles, they're really insulated from, they're apart from France's problems. They are not really experiencing the trouble that France is going through. Problems. Okay, so amongst the problems, we have the estate system. And France is divided into these social classes. And they're divided up into these 3 estates. The first, these are the noblemen. And the nobles make up about 2% of the population. And they own probably about 50% of the land. So if you're a farmer, odds are you're renting from one of the first estaters. Second estate, these are the clergy, meaning the people who work for the church. Now, most people who work for the church aren't super wealthy and powerful, but there are really wealthy members of the clergy and powerful members of the clergy that control. Again, they're 1% of the population, and they control about 30% of the land. Actually, these numbers might be backwards. But anyway, those letters are backwards. The land. And really, you're like, oh, well, there's 20% of the land left, but that's, the swamps, the sandy parts that you can't grow stuff on, mountainsides that are sort of impossible. And all that goes to the third estate. And this is everyone else. And this everyone else, it's mostly peasants, poor farmers. But there's also this new group called the bourgeoisie. I'm going to pretend that's spelled right. That's close. All right. I'm not looking at it right now. I think that might actually be bourgeoisie spelled correctly, though probably not. So bourgeoisie is this kind of new middle class. And it's this group that is, they're educated, wealthy. They're merchants, they're lawyers, they're doctors. And they're starting to wonder, why did these guys have all the power? Wait a second. These noblemen, they all inherited their wealth. I worked for mine, and I'm richer than some of them. So this new bourgeoisie, this new middle class they're kind of excited for change because they're the ones reading all the books by these guys. They're the ones talking about, yeah, you know what, you're right. We don't really need a royal family because we can handle it. The problem, though, is we're going to run into some financial disaster. So the Estates General, I'm going to put EG right here. The king wants to address some money issues. Because France is quickly running out of money. It's partly they financed the American Revolution, and the United States is not ready to quite pay them back yet. They will someday. Also, they're having bread shortages. There's been a terrible harvest. The king has, to try and fix things, has kind of raised taxes and played around with tax reforms. It's failed. It just leads to poor people having to pay way more taxes than anybody else. And it just gets messier and messier and messy. So the king calls together the three estates. And the problem are called to solve this problem. And they hadn't been called together really, I think at this time, like over 100 years. So they're called together, and the problem with this is the first and the second always outvote the third. So even though the third estate is made up of way more people, 97% of the population, they get one vote. The first estate gets one vote, and the second estate gets one vote, and that's going to lead to trouble. As the third estate gets kind of pushier and pushier and says, we're not going to take this anymore, they get locked out. Then we get the third estate swears the tennis court oath. Estate finds another room, and they promise to keep meeting. This is the tennis court oath. It's this big symbolic gesture. And they promise to write a new constitution. Okay, and where do we stop over here? So not long after the Estates General, we also have violence in Paris, where there's the storming of the Bastille. And the people of Paris basically attack this fortress, take it over, kill all the guards inside, release the prisoners, and get all the guns and gunpowder out of the Bastille. So it starts this tradition of violence. When things get rough and things look like they're in doubt, the people of France burn stuff down and kill each other. So we're going to get to that when we come back from break, because it's going to get worse. As you can see directly underneath this and to the left, or to the right rather, is a section called The Reign of Terror. You don't have to do it this time because we haven't learned about it yet. One thing that does come out of this is they do come up with the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. The Dec of Romac, whatever. Anyway, and this document essentially says no more estate system. And it outlines the kind of rights for citizens, for all citizens. I'll get that message in a second. And it's things like, and we read the Bill of Rights in the United States, it's a lot of the same. It's freedom of speech, freedom of religion. You're innocent till proven guilty. You have freedom of religion. Did I say that already? You have that right to remain silent. The government can't search your property or take your stuff. If you're going to be taxed, you get to have representation. and take part in it. Stop, leave me alone. So that is the big stuff. I'm going to stop us right here and check my phone because who's calling me?